All right, check it. Here we are in my house. There's some type of tropical storm, hurricane, I don't know, something heading this way. It's kind of windy today, so I had to figure out a different way to play with my airplanes. So I'm gonna go ahead and give a tour of all the jets that I own. There's more stuff in the garage, but this is just the jets. So let's start off here, and I arranged this in the order that they were purchased. This is my oldest jet. This is the MiG-21. This, by the way, not only is it my oldest jet, it's the first airplane I ever flew that had flaps. It's the first plane I ever flew that had retracts. So I had to figure out how to flip those switches on this thing. I bought this thing back in 2019. No, 2017, so it's been 5 years. And I'll be honest, back then I had a couple of other hobbies, and those two were taking up a lot of my time. So I kind of didn't fly this a whole lot. This is covered in aluminum. It's no longer foam. The missiles work. They do fire. The cockpit has been redone. That is Jet Hanger Hobbies pilot and some kitbashed stuff from the F4 and the L39, and that headrest is custom made. I don't know how to 3D print stuff. This is not even glued on yet because I think I'm gonna get a new one. It's been yellowed. So yeah, when I decided to get into jets, I've only been flying for about a year. I did buy the little MiG-15. I flew that for a month, and then I thought, hey, I'm ready for the big stuff. And it was between this and the F-86, and I went with this. Finally, I came to my senses and bought the F-86. I love the way this airplane flies. If you guys don't own one, you should get one, because it's really, people talk about the Avanti. This actually is a really nice flyer. I have an L39 too, and I think this one flies better. This is actually my second F-86. My first one, I was getting ready to redo it. I got a stuck flap coming in for a landing, and it just kind of went away from me and went into the woods. I never got it. This has now been converted into FJ2, FJ3. I did redo the cockpit. Let's go here. All right, it's my third airplane. I love the way this airplane flies, but it's got the chicken wire gear. I bought this thing literally the day before they came out with the high performance model. Otherwise, I would have bought that, but I got this instead. It flies great, but it's terrible on the ground. I did add some MK2 bombs. I took the seats that were in, those are the foam seats that were in the L39, and I put those in here. It's a nice flying airplane. It flies for a long time. It's just a handful on the ground. I mean, it skids off the runway. This thing skidded off the runway on the maiden. I crashed it before I ever got it off the ground. But anyways, now this is the nicest airplane Freewing makes as far as flying. This is the F-22. I love flying this thing. You can see the cockpit's all jacked up. That's because this thing was involved in a mid-air collision about 75 feet in the air. It got sliced in half. Well, not half, sliced right about here. I put it all back together. I just got to get a new cockpit for it, because this went back together, but it's a little wonky. So I'm just gonna get a whole new cockpit, and then it's gonna get a special paint job. I love this thing. I can't say enough nice things about the F-22. It's the nicest flying airplane. It does everything. Here is my L-39. This was refinished by me. I saw this scheme on Hobby Squawk, I think, and I liked it so much I decided to copy it. This has the cockpit that you can get from Motion. Actually, I don't think you can get them. I think they have the file so you can print it. I had a friend of mine print that up for me. And I did the camo Instead of using tape, I used wet newspaper. That way I had no issues with paint peeling up, because I did use what, 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors, and I didn't want to really sit around for days waiting for this stuff to cure. So wet newspaper works really good. This is one of my favorite looking airplanes. This thing looks so pretty in the air. For whatever reason, it looks really big when it's flying. This is the F-18. This is the Inrunner. I think this is an Inrunner. Anyways, it flies great. I really didn't do anything to this one other than to paint the gear. I know people say, oh, the E-flite gear is nicer. I have an E-flite one, by the way. The E-flite one is nicer, has nicer gear and whatever. I don't care. This gear works really good. I fly off grass, and it's not completely like not scale gear. I mean, it's got a little bit of a long trailing link back there. I mean, it does the job, and it looks fine. Plus, you put it up and you can't tell. This airplane is amazing. It's awesome. It sounds good. Looks good. Here comes my A4. Now, this A4 I bought from a guy. A lot of these I bought from a guy. And it was like this. I did not paint this. He did an outstanding job with it. So I just added a few things. I kind of detailed the bullpup missiles a little bit. Had added a nose gear door, AOA indicator. I did, because I like doing these things, I did do the inside. That's the seat off an F4. It's been modified. I know it's not 100% right, but don't sue me. The rest of the little switches and stuff, I just made those. I made those using the hinges that come with the Bae Hawk. So none of that stuff is 3D printed. It's just made by me. The heads up was from the F4, but everything else, all the switches and stuff, I made. I can't wait to get this one in the air and fly it. I think this is one of the prettiest airplanes, and he did a great job. This is an actual scheme, by the way. It's an aggressor scheme. Yeah. Oh, I painted the landing gear as well. All right, now here comes the airplane, I guess, with the most story. I bought this airplane. It's an F5. I wanted an F5 for a long time. I think they're really cool. And I lost it on the maiden. I looked down. I was flying. I said, I'm gonna come in. My buddy's like, no, don't come in. So I looked down at the timer. I don't know why. I looked up and I lost orientation. I couldn't tell where it was going. I flipped the gyro. I did put a gyro on this. I flipped the gyro to auto level, and it dropped down behind the trees. I eventually just lost it behind the trees, and I let go of the controls. I went to look for it. I couldn't find it. 5 weeks later, I found it in a tree, intact. Had a little bit of paint scrape there. I did have to replace a flap servo. But yeah, this one also has a full interior. That's lifted off the A4. Or excuse me, the F4. That's the F4 panels. That is an L39 seat that I modified to fit in there. And that's a Jet Hanger Hobbies Pilot. I added some drop tanks and some missiles down there. This thing flies amazing. Oh, and it's got flight metal back here. This is going to get a repaint also, but I want to fly it a little bit and get used to it before I repaint it. Here's my F-35. This one I haven't done much to. It did come with, again, I bought it off a guy. It did come with the fire booty, the Guniac fire booty, which looks awesome. I flew this one once on the maiden, and I ripped off one landing gear. I didn't rip it off, it just snapped. The actual pin snapped. I fixed that, I took it up again, and I snapped the other pin. So now it's got, I think I used nails for the pins. This is another one, I haven't flown a whole lot. This is the 70mm F-16. This thing has a 16 blade fan, and oh my God, does it sound awesome. I didn't put that in, again, I got this from a guy. Yeah, this one sounds really awesome. Even though it's a 70 millimeter, it sounds, that 16 blade fan makes a difference. This is my Mirage. I've yet to fly this. This one also has the cockpit. I bought this almost a year ago, or maybe over a year, at the Pilot Flying from a guy named Herman. And Herman didn't have the drop tanks. So Herman, if you watch this video, I want the drop tanks. This one is ready to go up. It does need a nose gear servo, otherwise it would have been flown already. It's ready to go. And then we get to the last jet I got. I just got this a couple of weeks ago. This is the ME262. The first version, which is the color scheme that I like. I like the gray and the blue pastels. It did come with upgraded FMS fans, and plus the original fans, and extra wing, and extra tail, and a bunch of extra parts. And this was a guy selling this in Daytona, which is all the way across the state. I'm in Tampa, and I told him, I think he was asking $300. I offered him $250 and meet me in Orlando, which is kind of halfway. He said it's $250, but you got to come pick it up. And I'm like, dude, whatever. But he was like, and I'm going to be out of town for the next few weeks. So a couple of weeks go by, he hits me up. He's like, hey, you still interested in the plane? And luckily, a good buddy of mine, Lil Tony, was over in Daytona for Jeep Fest. And I'm like, hey, do you mind picking this airplane up for me? So I gave him the money, $250. The day he's supposed to pick this airplane up, the guy hits me up. He goes like, hey, I just plugged the airplane in and the nose gear doesn't work. I can't sell it to you like that. But if you want it, you can have it for free. So I got this airplane literally for free with all those extra parts, and it's absolutely brand new. It is brand new. So yeah, I think that's what, 12 planes, 13 planes, plus the stuff in the garage. But these are all the jets. I told myself I would not buy another Freewing jet, but I did end up getting the ME262. Not because I don't like them, but I do want the Flex F100 and the, believe it or not, the Dynam Gloucester Meteor. There's something about that airplane that I like. But yeah, here we go. Quick tour. These things have taken over my house literally. I swear I never be that guy, but here I am. I am building a shed behind the garage for the stuff that's in the garage. So I get all my planes in the garage and the lawn stuff in the shed. That's it. I think that's 12 planes. All right. Very good. We're out, snitches.